Hey guys, it's Joe, and in this video I'm going to show you how to mix your kick and your bass together using some simple EQ. A lot of the energy in your mix will come from the low end, and it's really important to get that under control, and with this technique it will help you do that. So the main concept of it is that we'll essentially mirror each boost and cut that we're using on the opposite channel. So for example, if I put a 2 dB boost on 100Hz here, we'll put a similar cut at around the same area on our bass. This will allow each sound to just breathe a little bit more without going really over the top on any EQ, which could make it sound worse in the mix. So I've just pulled up the frequency analyzer here so we can have a look at what frequencies we'll be adjusting, but it is always good to use your ears for it as well. So here's what it sounds like with this. I'm just using a sub bass and my kick, and we'll EQ them to make them work together a bit more. So as you can see on here, they're sharing quite a lot of those frequencies in and below 200Hz really on both. Now, as this is a sub bass, my general rule of thumb is that I'll get rid of any high end on it. So we're going just above 200 here, but I don't really want that, especially as we're using some of those frequencies in the kick. So we're just going to remove it to about there. So it sounds a little bit smoother now. Of course, what I've just said about applying mirrored EQ isn't always the case. I'm now not going to apply an enormous boost to the kick because it would sound ridiculous. So there's always room to breathe with this. You don't always have to mirror everything, and equally we'll apply second EQ after it as well. So now we've taken out a lot of this high end, we can have a look at actually using our mirrored EQ. So let's have a look at what we're using. So on our kick we've got quite a lot at around 80Hz, so we're just going to put a bit of a boost there to help bring that out a little bit more. It's where a lot of the body of the kick is, so I want to bring that forward a little bit, and then alongside that we want to put a small cut on the sub. So as you can see, we've got a bit of a dip here at around 80, but as I said before, we don't have to exactly mirror it, we're just going to go for a rough area. So we're going to put a small cut here, we'll go more like 90 but make it a bit more narrow, and put a cut here to allow this to come through a little bit more. Of course you want it quite close to it, like so. That's quite nice, where we haven't affected the sub too much, but it's going to allow this to cut through a lot more. Now we're going to do it the other way around, so we're going to put a boost on the sub and then we're going to put a cut on the kick. So we've got a lot of the energy here, between 50 and 70 Hz I reckon. So again we'll just put a boost there. And then we'll put a cut on the kick for it too. So now with that, they're allowing each other to breathe a little bit more. Of course, what I've done now isn't the final sound of what I want them to sound like, it's just so they'll work together a little bit more in the mix. So if we just have a listen to it with and without. They're working together more now. You can hear each part a little bit clearer. Now with this is somewhat our foundation for what we want our kick and our bass to sound like. So now we've done this, what's a good thing to do is to go in and just add on another EQ afterwards. So on this we can just put on like the graphic EQ, and here we can really shape what we want our bass to sound like. And once we've done that for both the bass and the kick, we can go back and revisit our first EQ that we've put on to make any adjustments so they still work together. Of course it's important to make them sound good on their own, but if they don't sound good in the mix then they won't sound good. So by back and forthing between 1, 2 or even 3 EQs, you can get a really good result. This is actually just a really good and quite basic techniques to use when you're starting out your mix. It just helps get the low end under control a little bit more so it's working together, and it will allow you to revisit it throughout the mix. Of course the EQ in this video I've used is quite basic because This is just on a sub bass, it hasn't really got much characteristic to it. However, if you are using a bass with more harmonics and a little bit more substance to it, by all means use more boosts and cuts all throughout the frequency spectrum to both complement the bass and the kick itself. I hope you found this video useful, and if you have any questions, please leave a comment or contact me via my website. Thanks a lot for watching, cheers.